I don't know, I'm a freaking engineer, and how many engineers have to deal with trying to run the mic up and then hide the wire so that you can do some sort of a video for YouTube? I didn't sign up for that. Welcome back to Munro Live. Today we are looking at a 2023 Kia Niro. Now we did review, or at least they reviewed, a 2020 version of this some time ago. I was not here at that time. And I had reviewed another Kia a little while ago, and I was a little critical on that one. I have to be honest, we had just gone from reviewing that Mercedes to the Kia, so I was a little rougher than I needed to be. Now that one was a $56,000 vehicle, and it was more of a sporty vehicle. They did have a lot of nice features in that vehicle for the price, I guess. But this one is slightly less expensive at $44,000. This platform was not originally built to be an EV. It was originally built to be an ICE vehicle. So there are some differences here. Now, normally I would start off by going directly to the interior of the vehicle. However, with this vehicle, I think I have to talk about some of the features on the exterior. So let's go around to the side. Now, I do have to admit that I am prejudiced against Kia, not because of where it is manufactured, but because when Kia was coming to the US, at one time they had a buy one, get one free offer. Any type of an automotive company that can somehow sell their product as a buy one, get one free, I automatically do not trust you. Now, they may have improved their quality since then. However, since they did that in the past, I am almost permanently stuck in that mindset. How can I trust a company, an auto company, that ran a buy one, get one free offer? So I say that knowing that I am prejudiced, but looking at the exterior of this vehicle, I have some criticisms that I kind of have to say. At first, the overall profile, it's perfectly fine. It looks like a normal, small crossover type vehicle, sedan type vehicle. However, looking at this color scheme, now you could get this in a solid color, but the way this is put together with these gray body panels, to me, that almost looks like someone was in an accident, then they had to go to the junkyard to get a piece to fill back in, and they couldn't find one that matched their vehicle. It looks out of place, unrefined, and specifically this entire section. So let's see what's happening here. I have the flare over the tire. You'll see it actually does flare out until we reach here, then it cuts back in. So we have an inconsistency in those body panels there. We have this gray panel coming in. There's this character line in the vehicle, and it continues down. The white coming in from the rear. Okay, it crosses over the character line as well, coming down to the flare, but the gray of the rear fascia goes up to the character line. What is actually happening here? The inconsistency of this flare, this character line, to the gray, and the white. This really looks like something that was not fully thought out. They had a concept of how they wanted it to look, but the execution of where these body panels actually landed, it doesn't make much sense to me. In opening up and looking at the door, at first it's not really offensive, but what are the materials that we're looking at here? Let's look at this door from a side view. You'll notice that all of this is formed in this panel. It is slightly soft, but this has no real cushion to it. So how are they making this? I do believe that this is an in-mold grain IMG nickel shell tool that is making this skin. I believe that this was a skin that had a thin, maybe 3 to 4 millimeter foam on the back of it. When they form that in these draw areas, the foam gets sucked down to nothing, which is what makes it very, very hard here, slightly soft here. So then this is wrapped to a door panel. Most likely this is wrapped in an automatic machine. This would not be something that would be wrapped by a person. So the automatic machine would fit in with the skin, you'd put in the panel, and then it would have some sort of feature that's doing all of these edge folds. That is fairly low cost. Now that panel goes all the way down behind the armrest. That creates these very, very tight corners. The top of the armrest is just injection mold. Mold in color, injection mold, hard surface, but it's not piano black, which is kind of nice because this high touch area is not piano black. However, they have this huge piano black panel right in the middle. Now, I'm assuming that is completely just for styling. I don't really like the breakup. I don't like the look of that much of a high gloss black surface in the middle of my door panel. Now the lower mat pocket. This is also just an injection mold. Going into this speaker cover, which is part of the mold, you'll notice all of the patterns. A bunch of little triangles going through here. Now, speaking of those patterns, I want to make mention at this time about some of the materials in this car and the grain in this car. All right. When we normally talk about grain, we're talking about a fake leather or an animal skin grain. That's not what's actually going on here. We have all of those triangles, but that's not really grain, that's a surface. But this is more of a pebbled look. This is not mimicking an animal grain at all. Coming up, we just have a flat gray surface. This has no grain to it whatsoever. Coming to this vinyl area here, this does have somewhat of an animal grain to it. All right, so then this is translating into the instrument panel. The top of the instrument panel has what we would normally call a technical grain. This is just a geometric feature. There's nothing really to it to mimic any type of an animal or whatnot. Again, more of a pebble grain, a little stone look here. Coming into our seats. Now, when we were talking about vegan leather, we were talking about all these vinyls that are trying to mimic leather. Well, this is a vinyl that is not trying to mimic leather. This is a vinyl that's trying to mimic cloth. Now, I kind of like that. Some people prefer the cloth look. Also, this gives you a great cleanability compared to if this were real cloth. And even though I have been in an industry that uses a lot of leather, that is something that we have talked about through several iterations, going beyond leather, giving ourselves surfaces that don't have to be an animal grain. And I am completely okay with that as long as that is a general theme for the vehicle. But this vehicle seems to have 4 to 5 different themes that they're using. So it's just really inconsistent. You really don't know what it's doing. Compared to the way the vehicle body looks, someone had actually compared it to abstract art or a Picasso painting. It doesn't really blend together until you look at the whole thing, but each individual piece is kind of just a little bit out of place. Now, I am comfortable enough in this seat. It's not particularly luxurious to me, but I do have a nice little cockpit feel. Everything is surrounding me, but there's a lot of it. I'm not going to turn on the screens. I am not as savvy with all of the electronics to really speak clearly about them, but I will just make mention. This surface, there are buttons within here which are hidden when it's off, which is kind of nice. It keeps it clean, but the problem is when it's off, you just have this big dead space. Again, a lot of high gloss piano black. Okay, I guess that's very common whenever we're going around any type of a button. The cup holders I thought were weird. Okay, so it's giving me a big open space. So I have the option of using a big open space. If I need my cup holder, it deploys. It's a neat feature. It's a neat mechanism. My question is, who's ever going to use it as not a cup holder? What are you going to be doing? What are you going to put in here that is going to force you to say, oh, I can't have this in here at this time. Let's move that out of the way. It seems like it's a cool mechanism. It's a fun feature, but it's a feature that may be a little excessive or unnecessary. Just one more thing to break. So here's a question for you. The on button. Some people are critical, saying, why do I have to have an on button? It's an electric vehicle. I don't need a starter. I can just get in it and I can press the pedal. Okay. When we talked to Sono, their management was not wanting to have an on button. But when they talked to their customers, they said 75% of customer feedback said that they do want an on button. For me, I don't think it's as critical to be an on button. I think it's more critical to be an off button. Just because right now, since I have turned this on, the AC has started. If I'm getting out of this vehicle and walking away, I would feel uncomfortable knowing I'm walking away with all these components on. I would want to be able to turn it off and say, I'm done, shut down now. Let me do that again and watch what I do there. So that is functional and ugly at the exact same time. This type of a feature coming up off the back panel gives you a natural handle. I used it while I got into the vehicle, used it to position myself, pull myself in, but I also have a grab handle here. So we had a question. Which is actually more functional? If I were to need some sort of a grab surface, honestly, I think that this is more functional than the side grab handle, especially getting in and out of the vehicle. But if I was the driver and people are coming in, grabbing my seat, tugging on it, I don't think that I would like that. Now their execution. This is all hard plastic. And there's a split line from a forward and a rearward piece of plastic here. That split line is pretty ugly. So I like the existence of the feature. I hate the execution and the look. Now look at this airbag logo. There is a debate whether or not an airbag logo is required whenever you have an airbag in a vehicle, and if it is required at the position of the airbag. Well, this is an airbag logo on the inside of the driver's side seat. There's also one on the inside of the passenger seat. Does this mean that there's an airbag on both seats on the inboard side? I don't think so. I do know some vehicles that will put it on one or the other to have an airbag between the two, but I've never seen two that are deploying into each other. All right, so why is it that way? Okay, there's also an airbag logo on the outboard of the seat. That makes sense. There is an airbag on the outside edge of the seat. So they want this to be a common part, I would say. Okay, so that means that this part and this part could be interchangeable. That's why the airbag logo is on both sides. No, that's not true because of this feature here. The USB port, the charge plug here, creates a imbalanced component. So that means that this is mirrored, but it is not common between the two sides. Okay, so that means that this would not have been necessary. Now another question. Why is this component a separate piece between these two panels? Why didn't they just mold that inside of the surface here? The only reason I could consider that is you would need an A surface slider here. By having this secondary component, you see this split line between the component. An A surface slider in an injection molded tool would create a witness line where the slider was located. So you would still have a line that's haloing the part. So is it more efficient to have a slider that creates that halo line, or to create an entirely new part that also has that feature? Now I have this one, which we'll call a right-hand version, and a left-hand version on this side. I have a right hand and a left hand on that seat as well. This whole system, since it's not common, since at least one of these is probably unnecessary, I think maybe it was an oversight. Someone who really wanted a mirrored looking component, but yet it's not really necessary. All right, so our map pocket door. We have a debate whether we need a map pocket. Some people like the feature. I don't. I think it's worthless. But this is a hard injection molded panel. There's an elastic strap and then a fabric strap that is built inside of the back panel. So there's features that allow for this mechanism on the other side of this back panel that you have to assemble on a bench, sewing, making sure that you have it consistent, because you really don't want one side bent more than the other. I think it's unnecessary myself. We do have an air vent control, but there's no charge ports or any other physical controls here. All of our charge ports are on either side of this seat. Again, this is a vinyl that is designed to mimic a fabric. All right, so the inconsistencies that I see here, trying to make this look like a weave, trying to make this look like a denim. I see the grays and the whites. Coming into the perforated area, you see them in long sections, kind of a hashed white into a splotchy gray. You can actually do this by printing. So you are calendar rolling the vinyl itself, you are printing on the outer surface, and then you are perforating. When I look at these perforations, I want you to notice something, and we're going to have to get in pretty close to see this. Look at the size of these holes in comparison to the tip of my finger. Those are fairly large. Coming in to the center of the seat, you notice how small they have gotten. Back out to large. Now let's look at the front portion. These are all small, going all the way across. So this and this did not come off the same roll. This is not perforated. This did not come off the same roll. And then we have the black vinyl as well. So in order to make this seat, I had to have a roll of black. I had to have a roll of fabric perforated, but with a consistent perforation. Then I had to have a roll of fabric perforated, well, not fabric, vinyl, perforated with large hole, small hole, large hole. And then that pattern continues up the back of the seat. So I had to have 4 different materials on the roll in order to cut and make this seat. That's not uncommon. It's just a hassle to try and manage, especially trying to keep this pattern with those narrow, smaller holes consistent on every cut piece going up the seat. So I wanted to show you a feature that you may not know of in your vehicle. So this seat folds forward. You see this edge? You see that red? That red is there so that if you see it, you know that this seat is not latched. So if the seat is sitting back and the red is exposed, you know that that seat is not latched. It could be dangerous if you leave in your car. So you have to pop that in place to get that to latch down. Now I've designed several of these for several different vehicles, and visibility of that red is important. When I look at this one, look at that red. It is so dark that it is hard to see even on a straight side face. But the visibility of the red is only on the side face. When this is back, the side face isn't visible. I can only see it from the front. So I think that this mechanism is poorly designed for the condition that this vehicle has. But there is one feature that I really like. So if I pull this seat forward, I'm pulling the belt with it. I don't want the belt to pull with it. But if the belt's back, I don't want the belt to be jammed into the mechanism of the latch. So here's a feature that some vehicles have. This hole right here is a holding point. I can put that belt right in there. It's going to hold it in place for me while I am functioning this seat. I like that feature. It's neat. No one is ever going to use it, but it's there. All right, so I have a couple of criticisms on this cargo area, and then I have something that I really like. All right, so you see the white bracket. That is the bracket that is engaging the latch on the seat back. First question is, why is there so much of that bracket sticking out? All right, I was giving myself 2 possible reasons. Sometimes these seats have a recline feature built into them so that it will lock in multiple positions. So you can give a little bit more comfort to the rear passenger if they can recline back. Maybe that is extended so that it can have a further recline point. No, there's only one fixed position that cannot extend any more than that. Okay, well maybe they extended that wire to give you a grab point for a bungee cord or a ratchet strap, anything like that. That would make sense. That's a great point. But that doesn't really make sense because look right here. They gave you this little tiny plastic tie down, which is almost impossible to use if you have fat fingers like me. And there are 4 of them in the vehicle, 2 on each side. So why would they want to be giving you this tie down point there if they're already giving you these tie down points, even though I don't like them? So I'm not giving them credit for wanting to use it as a tie down. So I'm just saying, I don't think that they knew what they wanted. Child tethers. All right, if you have a child seat, the child seat has a tether lock, which will attach to the structure at the back of the seat. Well, you can see the logo there for the tether, but where's the tether? In a lot of vehicles, you'll actually have an injection molded plastic bezel, and you'll see a wire across it that that tether is going to attach to. Let's fold this down and I'll show you. There is a slit inside of the carpet backing. That slit will give you access to that tether point. If you were the parent of a child and you needed access while you're trying to install your child seat, that would be annoying for you to try and dig in there to access the cable. If you have no kids and you want a nice flat backing, that's nice too. I honestly don't care about that tether. I don't have kids. I'm not putting in a child seat in my vehicle. I want to ignore it. So the only time this is really going to be splayed open and worn out is if you are the parent of a child and you're actually using that for a child seat. All right, there's one other thing that I want to show, and for this, I would like the camera to step back a few feet. So we have our cargo load floor, and we know that there's a storage bin underneath here. Let's open up that storage bin. Now, can you see the problem that I don't like? It is this gap right here. Goes all the way underneath the seat structure. You can see the electronics and also seat mechanisms up underneath there. So if I'm putting in anything in here for storage and it is bumping and banging around, I have the possibility of losing my stuff all the way up underneath that passenger seat. There's no type of a closeout panel. That kind of bugs me. I don't like it, but they're saving money by not creating a closeout. In the end, to me, this is not an objectionable vehicle. It's fairly nice. I like the look. I like the vinyl mimicking fabric just because I like cleanability. I don't like that big shiny black panel in the middle. The types of tooling that was executing this, I understand that type of tooling. It doesn't give me a luxurious feel. This is a $44,000 vehicle, and whenever we get below $50,000 for an electric vehicle, I am a little more lenient on some of these things for quality execution, just because you're giving an offering that is much closer to things that people can afford, and I'm very, very happy for that. There's a mix of metals. So we have the metal trim on the door. There's some metal trim on the instrument panel, but even look at the pedals. The dead pedal, the accelerator, and the brake pedal, nice metal finish there. That's unique. You don't see that on a lot of vehicles. So it's not that objectionable, especially for the price point. The big bulky plastic for the back panel of the seat, no, I don't like that at all. I think it looks way too cheap. But I like the grab point on the seat. So in the end for me, though I am prejudiced against Kia, for something below $50,000, I think that it is good. I understand the technology that's used to create these materials. So I know that it's not a high-end offering. I know that it's not the luxury offering, but it's not supposed to be. So thank you for watching Munro Live. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at the Kia Niro. Sorry I don't have a violin with me today while we review it. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and stay tuned for other videos to come.